Hey everybody, welcome to the Postmodern Gaming Channel. Tonight we are looking at the newly released Vampire 5th Edition companion book that dropped for free from the World of Darkness just a couple days ago. We've all had a chance to read it, and the internet has been abuzz with plenty of not only speculation but opinion on this book. Let's see what we all had to think about it tonight. I think starting things out with this book, I originally going in this wanted to kind of look at things in the way that we did for our Cthulhu Tech, like autopsy, right? Like look at accessibility, mechanics, setting approach, and things like that. But really, a lot of it gets thrown out the window with this book because one, it's not its own setting book. It's just a player's guide light. They did stuff with the clans in this book for the Salubri, the Tzimisce, and the Ravnos, but they also included the ability to make and play ghouls and mortals and the rules for how they function. They also give some merits and flaws for around coteries for just about every single clan. So there's a lot of stuff in there, in addition to a rules errata. It's not just about the clans, but the clan stuff has been taking the forefront in just about everybody's opinion and minds, and there's been a lot of reactions on both sides of the fence. A lot of really tense discussions in the World of Darkness Discord and on various web outlets, some of which I have been a part of. That being said, I think it's obvious I have my reservations about what was in the book. Just a general thumbs up or thumbs down from people here that we have. Who liked the book? Anybody?
I mean, it was free. That's pretty cool. So yeah, I appreciate that.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Nate. I can get behind that. The book itself, well, we'll get into that.
People put work in. So artists hopefully got paid for their work. I don't know.
The art was fucking awesome.
That's about the only thing I can get behind. It was free and the art looks good.
Okay, so clearly there's not a lot of like in the book here. What are the things that stand out, like that really struck a chord with you, be them good or bad? When we'll go our normal counterclockwise, Nate.
I felt like the big thing that people wanted were the clans.
Right.
And to me, the write-ups of the clans were severely lacking. They're like, kind of like 10-paragraph, half-page write-ups, and they didn't seem complete. And also, to me, they didn't seem to make a lot of sense based on the previous versions of the game. In fact, in certain circumstances, I felt like they completely disregarded things that had been updated, and they didn't further update it for a new version. They kind of like disregarded it. I felt just like they were very vague, and especially with the Salubri, like, are there only 7 of them? Are there not only 7 of them? Are they playable? Are they not playable? Like, what's going on? I didn't like the Banes, and we've talked about that. Well, you've mostly talked and I've listened, but I think that the Banes are really unbalanced, and they don't make a lot of sense. The Tzimisce was iffy. However, the sort of inclusion that there's like a bunch of Tzimisce that have joined the Anarch movement doesn't make sense to me at all from any context of that clan ever, period, point blank. And honestly, I don't understand like why they made the changes that they made. And it just doesn't, to me, that doesn't make sense. Now, all that aside, the other stuff that's in there, the stuff about the ghouls, I appreciate them bringing that in, the stuff to, kind of improve the coteries and giving, different merits and flaws for coterie use. I appreciate. I think that that's fine within the context of V5. But I haven't had the opportunity to read the entirety of it. I just basically got that far and then was able to scan the rest. And really, the big thing that stuck out to me was the clans, and I just didn't appreciate. I didn't appreciate. Like, I'm not owed anything. I just don't care for how they were presented, and it's just kind of contradictory and doesn't seem to make a lot of sense.
Fair enough. Jesse?
I mean, I'm going to wind up echoing a lot of what Nate said. Reading over the clans was, at some points, just had me tilting my head going, what the fuck? and in other points was exceedingly painful. Because, like, yeah, cool, you brought in the ghouls. Good to know how I can build a ghoul, or if somebody wants to play for the first time, how they can be a ghoul to get a feel for the game. Because that was oftentimes how we would start it for the first time players who had never done this shit before.
Right.
But then you look at things like the Vosj and the Schlachta, and I'm sorry, a base build Nosferatu should not be able to one-shot a Schlachta, and I happen to know they can do it.
Well,
Like, not a Schlachta, a Vosj. They're the war ghouls.
Yeah.
They were previously, big hulking, scary badasses that if you ever found one in a fucking game that was coming at you, you had one of two choices: kill it or fucking run. Now it's just like, oh, bop, 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 puny Vosj. Why? A lot of the Banes, like Nate said, and like you had said previously, no, just no. Why? But the art looked cool, so cool.
fair enough. Jeff?
So I echo pretty much what everybody else has said. The difference is like, so as a fan of Clan Tzimisce, and initially when I first started gaming, I didn't like them. They were too dark. And then over the course of my 20 plus years, I grew to, they're one of my favorites. And to basically shit on that history and be like, oh yeah, they're just joining the Anarchs now. What? Like, I could have more understood if they had seceded from the Sabbat, going, yeah, we really didn't care about hunting your elders shit. We're going to kind of do our own thing, and became independent, wholly independent. That I could see, sure. But going, we're going to just side with the Anarchs and live in Anarch. Like, what? Like, no. Come on.
No.
That's like shitting on that clan's history.
Yeah.
One of the audacity of still calling them voivodes and then doing that.
For me, that the Anarch Tzimisce thing was really kind of laughable. But really, for me, overall, the Tzimisce got the best treatment in the entire book out of the three clans.
They did.
They were treated the best. They got the most balanced stuff. They actually, for those who haven't read, they changed the Tzimisce Bane, or what we used to call the clan weakness. Now it's not just 2 handfuls of earth. You can select whatever your charge is that you really are like looking over, I guess, as its owner or keeper. And you have to be around those things while you sleep, otherwise you start getting penalties. Now, unfortunately, some of the community management team for the World of Darkness decided to make a joke out of that and be like, yeah, you can be surrounded by Funko Pops or, other sorts of weird, silly things. So it's just
references also being surrounded by people. And I was like,
Right.
You can do a family and try and get longevity out of that. But if that family catches fucking COVID or the fucking Black Plague and they all die out, you're dead. But
right.
I don't do magic, Morty. I do
that I have
science.
with it
One takes brains, the other takes dark eyeliner.
It's like the severity is too strong, in my opinion. Like, there's no precedent for that clan to take actual physical damage just to be weakened, right? Because what are we talking about here? We're talking about entities that are tied to the land in the Carpathian Mountains.
Yeah.
And that curse has followed them through the centuries. Even so far as like people that are embraced there, they still suffer from that same draw to the land from wherever they're from. So like, you don't get to pick Funko Pops because that's not the curse that you have from the fucking demon Kapala, who's buried and bound into the dirt in the Carpathians.
But so that brings up
off his power. Like,
but that brings up a really, really important question here, and this is something that I've said repeatedly now about this entire V5 line, is that it's a soft reboot of the World of Darkness. It's not a Requiem-esque reboot.
They've changed history.
They have changed history without admitting that they've changed history. Because let's be honest,
that's not. Yeah, you're right, but that's not a change; it's a disregard.
Right. Well, it's effectively them selling us a false bill of goods, right? So when V5 came out, the way that I read it, and maybe I was wrong, was here's a continuation of the plot line. We're going to continue on, advance the story forward from, when the Time of Thin Blood started happening, and we're just going to evolve things forward into this new, I guess, milieu for the World of Darkness. But in the process of doing that, they forgot to tell us that, oh, by the way, we're going to very quietly start disregarding all these things and start writing in these other factions as being major players when they've never been major players before, but we're going to pretend like they always have been. And on top of that, we're going to change the clans so fundamentally that entire disciplines are gone that caused massive movements in clans' histories. So...
Yup.
But we're not going to bring it up. We're never going to admit it fully that we're rebooting the line effectively. We're just pretend like this is how it always was.
Yeah, that's really what bothers me about it.
Yeah.
That disregard for one, I understand if there's a reasonable explanation why disciplines have changed and you write it into your story, there's some sort of withering, right?
Yep.
That was how they wrote that into Gehenna. It wasn't like, oh, we're going to change it. They were like, this is a plot thing. This is what's happening.
I think
if they had included that in their plot or some sort of, they've used bloodborne illnesses throughout the history of the game to varying effect, varying degree of what
Curses.
the fuck.
or
curses.
adaptations
Curses.
to modern times, with all the quietest manifestations over the years.
Right.
Like they've mentioned, but
Well,
I
not
want
just that, the combo disciplines that the young make up,
Right,
that can dilute blood, that can change things.
just have an in-game reason. Like all the ancients waking up, the beckoning has fundamentally altered the properties of blood, and now we're all left going, "What the fuck is happening?" That could have been a meta plot point, but instead they just disregard that entirely and just go, "Well, it's always been this way."
Right.
No, it hasn't.
And any kind of information about, say, I don't know, my favorite clan as to why they went back to dominate would be nice. That would have been lovely.
I'm
The
gonna
Great
step
Prank
away
was a
for a
huge
minute.
thing.
I'll be back in a minute.
We've always been at war with Europa.
Well, yes, I know that.
But it's just one of those things where it's when they wrote this book, it further put the nail in the coffin for me to the idea that there was ever a continuation of the pre-Gehenna Week of Nightmares storyline and world that we all grew up playing with.
Well, and I don't think anyone can disagree with you on that. And then on top of it, they actually further back up that no, supposedly that's what this is, because the fire burning in the Ravnos blood is because of the Week of Nightmares.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, that's why it even. So they have all these links, right, to the past, but then they have all these points of disjunction that they never ever address. Like the stuff with Salubri that Nate's bringing up. The Salubri had a very interesting history once you got to Time Within Blood and beyond. All kinds of shit happened with them. The populations exploded. We had the Salubri Anti-Tribute and the Sabbat for the Second and Revised. It just went fucking nuts with Salubri shit. And then now all of a sudden,
opening a third eye.
Now all of a sudden we're back to, they're so rare, we're not even going to justify putting in concepts in the companion book, which to me says we didn't have time, so we're going to make something up,
Or we didn't care.
Or we didn't care, which I think is the way I took it, and I was kind of quite personally insulted by it. I'm not a huge fan of the Salubri, but come on.
So as a fan of Salubri, they've got the worst end of the stick in this companion. Now I know we're all stuck on the clan stuff. I think, so to bypass that for a second, I think that the mortal stuff and the ghoul stuff was well done. I understand what they're trying to do with the revised blood potency pool, chart, which basically increases blood potency, the bane severity and the blood surge potency abilities, which is fine. But what really stings to me as being bullshit, with all due respect, is they say that they're revising the blood the blood potency equals bane severity thing. We're upping that dramatically or by 1 or 2 because really bane should be dangerous. Bane should be something that makes you stop and give pause. They shouldn't just be annoyances. But then they go and make the Ravnos bane what it is, which is really
the only time it's dangerous is if you're in torpor.
Yeah, because they tell you they flat out tell you in the book how to make it a non-issue. They tell you exactly how to make this
the
bane.
errata for the clan.
Well, no, they tell you in the clan itself, hey, here's how you can get around this. You can be in a caravan or a van or a U-Haul or whatever and just move a mile away from each spot where you parked the night before and sleep that way, or have multiple havens.
And just haven hop.
So essentially, because people are like,
Go to a
oh,
fucking motel.
well, a couple people on various boards like, oh, well, it's super dangerous because you know, it's not safe to stay in a fucking car as you're a vampire because so much stuff can go wrong. Like, yeah, sure, that's why you don't do it. You buy 7 fucking havens at level 1, and you just fucking go to a different one each night. You just go to a different one. It's not a bane; it's a background tax. That's all it fucking is.
And even then, you don't even technically have to buy them. You just have to have 7 places that you've staked out that you can go squat for a fucking night.
Or alternatively, the argument was it's super bad because when they fall into torpor, Justin Achille acknowledged the fact that the bane still hits them while they're in torpor. So let's unpack that. Let's seriously unpack this. I did this on Nate's server earlier today, and let's unpack what Justin Achille says. Justin Achille says that if you are a Ravnos and you get put in torpor, you still continue to take damage as you wither, essentially. You suffer from the bane still, unless you're moved. Cool. And the 2 main types of vampire games that people will play, one of which is politics/horror, your standard vampire game, right? 2 of which is the action-oriented gothic, like, ass-kicking simulator that we saw in V20, which is, or in before that, which is Trench Coats and Katanas Rooftop, Midnight. So in Playstyle 1, which is your standard, you know, vampire game in my mind, the threat of torpor is not really always there. It's rarely ever brought up because you're politicking and you're doing, like, you know, the horror aspects and the decline of humanity. You're trying to, you know, find a balance between yourself and the beast and your hunger, and it's high drama. Torpor is not really, it's like that far off threat that's not really rearing its ugly head all the time. So to be honest, in this type 1 of gameplay, torpor, taking damage in torpor for Ravnos is a very rarely encountered situation. Very rarely. Play option 2. We're playing the action, we're going to whoop each other's ass vampire. In which case, you hit torpor, you're dead.
It's a threat nightly. Yeah.
Right. So how is
That's
that?
like coup de grace, you're gone.
So in that case, in those types of style of play, the torpor causes huge problems for a Ravnos issue is not even a thing. Oh. Very rarely ever would you encounter, unless you get torpor and everybody else in the thing gets killed and you're just stuck in the bottom of a river and just whatever. But still, again, rarely encountered. So in all due respect, the Ravnos Bane is a bullshit laugh vest.
It's absolutely not a threat. And then, you know, there is the option of, if you think you're going to wind up in torpor, first of all, you're Ravnos. Why are you still there?
Well, you know, it's stuff pops up on people all the time, and I get that, but it's such a rarely encountered thing. It's not even worth being a Bane. You know, it's like the old school, like, you know, you get state, you die version of Dark Fate. You know, it's like
it's stupid. It's stupid because you can't expect a player to play in a game and find a new place to sleep every night. So I do think it is a threat, but I think it's a stupid threat to say if you don't move, you take damage because you're cursed. Like, how do you expect a player who is in a coterie that wants to play a Ravnos that's taking place in a city to find a new place to sleep every night? How do you expect them to do that? Like,
well,
so basically, I need to devote my points to resources to get a truck and retainer to get a guy to drive me around.
Yeah, it's a tax.
Or a bunch of Haven dots at level 1.
It's a tax. So here though, like, what's funny is I feel like the Ravnos Bane they settled on was like a compromise, because when you read
I think it's a cop out.
Well, when you read it originally, the way that I had originally taken it reading, I was like, okay, so they can't stay in geographical areas. They have to keep moving. So, like, you know, you can't stay in the same city. You got to move. But that then eliminates it being able to be played in a coterie. And I think somebody went to the dev and goes, hey, remember, we need them to be able to play in a coterie, right? Like, we can't have them move 30 miles every night.
Didn't have that same. But they didn't have that same epiphany when they were like Salubri.
Right. Yeah. That was,
we'll get to that one in
you
a
know,
minute, I'm sure.
You know, fuck these third eye having sons of bitches. Let's just not let anybody play them. And so in chat, Chris said, Salubri get 3 Banes in 1. Yeah, they kind of do. And I agree with that. You have anytime you use a discipline, any discipline, you start weeping from the third eye, Masquerade Breach.
Weeping blood.
When you do use a discipline and it weeps, if anybody in your vicinity, even coterie mates, are hunger 4, they have to test for hunger frenzy and attack you. And then you have the my blood's addictive.
Right, because you taste so good.
That's hot.
So
That's hot shit in a handbag is what that is.
So in
Yeah.
essence, they're like, Salubri, just let's make it to where nobody really wants to play them. And what makes me laugh is that their community person, Outstar, was like, "Oh, Salubri is so much fun to play." I'm like, "Did you not do anything then? You just must have sat there and not used a goddamn single discipline because, whoa, you're a walking masquerade breach, and everybody knows what you are the moment you use any discipline."
And you're basically
Not
hunted
just-
universally. Any clan.
Not just your Oban Valren, by the way. Any discipline.
Well, also the other big change is that in earlier editions, the third eye wouldn't appear until you got to a certain level of mastery of your discipline.
Yeah, until intermediate
And
or
now-
level 3.
Yeah,
now
I'd
it's
say wasn't it
it's
intermediate?
You have an eye, you use a discipline, it bleeds.
And you can't hide it supernaturally at all, ever.
Nope.
Right.
Obfuscate, no longer a viable option.
Yeah.
No, use obfuscate and they see a bleeding fucking eye and nothing else. Because that's the way it fucking reads.
Yeah.
Because you can't hide it even supernaturally, which means you
That's-
can't use obfuscate. So what?
That's why I said obfuscate's no longer a viable option
Oh,
for that, because you
man.
used to be able to hide it until it started fucking glowing.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna shit in the middle of this book and go to the devs and clap that motherfucker shut, man. Like,
You are
heated about
angry.
this, dude.
I'm so
I am.
It's a virtual book. You're not gonna
so I'm not.
Yeah, I know.
What, you
I
do
mean,
your
print out
laptop?
I just want him to be
pages
covered
and
in my
throw it.
shit, Nate.
gonna throw my iPad at
Like
you.
I want to cover them like they covered my
My
beloved
favorite thing.
pastime.
Right.
But-
I'm gonna take 2 iPads and slap the shit together that way then.
But
Don't
honestly,
do
like,
that. iPads are expensive.
and then we read like the actual like write up for the Salubri, right? They're like, oh, they're seeking Golconda. Like literally, it's like Justin Achille went into a coma from second ed to now, and just forgot everything that happened with the Salubri, and was just like, you know what?
Yep.
All this stuff
Or
we did that
disregarded them as a throwaway clan.
all this stuff that we did that made them interesting in Modern Knights and like gave dichotomy to the clan as opposed to just that one-sided. Let's just throw that shit out of the way. Nobody wants that. Nobody cares. Nobody
Yeah.
cares.
One massive disassociative episode.
You know, it was just like, dude, I know you got your money, but can you like spread some love all around as opposed to just the Tzimisce that you clearly had a hard on for the way it was written so lovingly, aside from the fact that they're fucking anarchs, which
Still makes no
Well,
sense.
Here's the thing: they're not.
And I
It's
don't
not
like
even
that
that
they're
they're
fucking
anarchs.
amalgams.
They're,
Amalgams.
it's not that they're anarchs. It's just that they've taken this concept of
the crumbling
the-
decadence of the clan.
Yeah.
no.
Oh yeah,
what
Russ.
Kind
What
of,
they've
yeah.
done is they've taken this concept of only the most extremist members of the Sabbat have remained, and that anyone who is like somewhat moderate in their beliefs has fled the Sabbat. But the Tzimisce were that. There isn't an element of the Tzimisce where they're like, I'm like a moderate type of not extreme, religious.
And if
zealot."
you
Like,
are, it doesn't last long because your bloodline won't allow it.
right. It's
Yeah.
it's I don't know. It's just more of the same. Like we're working on the Sabbat. I can't wait. That's gonna be
Oh no!
I
It's
get the
like
feeling that's going to be
handling of
another.
important shit.
That's going to be another fucking book clap in face at this point. I feel because this is just. If this was their teaser, I don't want to see what the main meal is.
So, this is the first offering from the World of Darkness Studios proper, like under the direction of Achille and all that. This leaves me concerned for the rest of the World of
Most
Darkness.
definitely.
The way they wrote this
Exceedingly.
book seems so disjointed because they harp on how, Bane should be severe and actually, make you give pause, and they fucking make a bullshit fucking Bane for the Ravnos, then a overly harsh one for the Salubri. And then the one for the Tzimisce is like, yeah, we'll just open up your options, whatever. Yeah, you'll take damage, but, it's fine.
But I have a box of marbles that I sleep around with that'll just come with me everywhere.
as long
Funko
as you pick
Pops,
the
Jeff.
marbles of character creation.
Fucking
A
Funko
bed full of
Pops.
teddy bears.
As you
Like a
do
Funko
it,
Pop.
as long as you do it at or before character creation.
Yeah,
it's fine.
and I think that's really this idea of V5 being the reboot. I think they should come out and say it.
Yeah.
Just come out and say it. I because don't pull me on. Like, and we've seen a lot of clans change drastically over the various editions. Like the Bali, for example, have gone back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. For example, the Assamites were just fucking boogeymen, then became in depth, and then now it's just like, yeah, castes. We'll mention it, but they really aren't a thing anymore. Like it's well, you pick what you want as a caste, as opposed to you're embraced into it. And then like bringing Goretrix back or House Goretrix without any explanation how the fuck that happened. Like House Goretrix, to my knowledge, they fucking died in New Mexico City. All Pillars of Salt.
They
Well,
did. I
there
just
was
read
a
the
handful,
chapter. I just read so the anti-tribute. If you go to Lore of the Clans, distinctly it states there are some Telyavalik Tremere, if that's how you pronounce that, and there are like newer versions of Tremere that have gone anti-tribute, but that House Goretrix was incinerated in the Chantry in Mexico City. So I don't know, like House Goretrix doesn't exist
Well,
Hmm.
because
but
Goretrix doesn't exist.
Goretrix
But-
got his
That's
ass
fair.
stuffed into a mirror.
Yup.
Yeah.
But now, like, I don't know. We don't know what's canon, what's not, and it makes it even difficult. And while I respect Dawkins's opinion about keeping things open-ended plot for to be resolved a couple years down the line, and then we'll come back to it, but really has no bearing on the present. I think there's some errors in that line of thinking because there are so many decisions that have been made with V5 that have set plot in motion or meta in motion that's never ever addressed or explained that drastically deviates. But the most important thing is to make sure that nobody really knows if Mithras survived because he's not important to the meta. Well, what about all the other stuff that's gone down that we don't have any word on? We don't know what went down. It's kind of crazy. So let's see what
Right,
we got
it's
in
their
chat.
job to give the storytellers the tools, and then the storytellers alter it as needed in their story.
Well, let's be
But they
honest.
need-
You know what? And this is my argument to this whole idea of as a dev, I want to leave things open ended so people can make their own canon. Let's be honest. Everybody makes their own fucking canon, anyways, right?
True.
Like every storyteller is like, I'm going to include this. I'm going to maybe tweak this like outcome of this plot a little bit, or do this or whatever. Or even in the major stuff they've done in like Chicago by Night, the La Sombra, did we allow them to be part of the cam or did we fucking stop them? Oh, well, in our game, we stopped them. Okay, cool. The meta's going for them as having been in the cam, though. Did it really hurt anybody's tabletop experience? No, it didn't. Unless you got some crazy fucking draconian ST who is like, no, everything is run exactly by how the canon is. I would love to see that ST and how he doesn't have a game. And two, show us on a doll where those STs hurt you guys. Because seriously, like I don't get this idea that and this went back to even like the M20 stuff, and that's my biggest issue with M20. It's not that you're not forging a new canon, it's like you're not even cementing current canon. That's the problem. You're not leaving current events open-ended, you're leaving past events open-ended that don't have a foundation for us to build off of. And I think that's an issue.
Well, it also
not to
calls
mention-
into question. I'm sorry, Jeff. You go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, not to mention those open-ended things make the new shit that they're coming out with not make sense because there's no congruency. There's nothing connecting the two.
Have you
It
ever
seems such
watched?
a far deviation.
Have you ever watched a TV show where, like, every 5 or 6 years they retcon their story, or they changed the plot in the middle of the game or the middle of the show? I'm sorry, I'm like losing my own comparison here, but like when you watch something and they start like retconning things in the middle of the series, they start like changing things without notice, or they tell you like, don't worry about it, it'll come up, and it never does. Like, that doesn't make for a good show.
Right.
And the reason why it's important to know the outcome from a canon perspective about Mithras and whether or not Mithras is still alive, whether Mithras is the prince, whether Queen Anne is the prince of London, whether London is completely annihilated and none of them exist anymore. It's important to know that, because is there a ritual that can turn like a 12th generation Assamite anti-tribute back into a 4th generation vampire? Is that how you avoid the beckoning? Is there a 4th generation vampire just ignoring the beckoning? That is the foundational element of your story. That elders are being beckoned to some mysterious thing that's happening in the Middle East, and the Sabbat
Unless
has
those
picked up
elders
and
live in
gone,
Chicago.
and they've decided, well, and that's where I'm getting.
Right.
If you can just leave the front line for a while, like it's
If you make rules to your setting, you have to follow the rules when you make subsequent products for the setting. You have to
Right.
follow your own internal rules. And unfortunately, with every additional supplement that comes out for V5, they break the rules in a different way. But then they leave
Yeah.
it going, well, it's mysterious. That's not an explanation, guys. Like,
That's not
you-
mysterious. That's annoying.
It's a cop out.
it's a cop out.
lazy
It's a
writing.
cop out. It's a huge annoying cop out. You got to give us the rules that we know how to play these things by. You can't. It's fine to play in-game narrators not knowing and being like it's mysterious, we don't know. But give us a fucking sidebar that says under the hood, this is what's going down. Let us know the rules as storytellers so we can write the stories that fit within this world. And yes, every table is its own world. Yes, every table can have its own rules and how it's done. But you guys need to
foregone
give us.
conclusion.
You guys need to give us the byline, like here's how it's being done.
it is
You have
not
to give us some kind of direction.
it's not the job of the writers of the material to give players agency. It's their job to write the setting and to create the canon, to create the meta plot of the game. It is the job of the storyteller to give players agency.
Yes.
You write
100%.
books. I tell stories at the table. If I don't know the world and I don't know the rules for the world, how can I properly tell the story? So
Exactly.
that whole argument of like sorry not sorry, that's bullshit. That's garbage.
Couldn't
Yeah.
agree
Your
more.
job is to create a cohesive story that we can then use and we can add our own flavor to and present that to our players.
So
If you
here's
don't
the
do that.
here's the thing for me that completely destroys that argument of we were trying to give player agency. Sorry, not sorry. Smiley face. Teehee. Here's what fucking annihilates that. And I'm sorry, I'm a little heated about this because this really sticks in my craw. You write the fucking meta plot. You tell us what goes down in canon, and then you say, alternatively, if your players do this, here are some suggestions.
That
Right.
could work.
Here are some ideas, like if they let Mithras live, or if Queen doesn't get killed. Here's some possible plot seed ideas that you can utilize in your stories going forward. But we're not going to write a definitive ending because we want to give agency. That's like Nate said, it's not your fucking job. Like your job is to write the
Right.
canon, write the story. I'll give my players agency, and we'll
Also-
decide the ultimate fate of what goes down.
And if you think for an instant that players aren't going to try to look into this shit the second they figure it out in game, I've got a dome over Chicago to sell you that was set up by an Afandi.
Yeah, no shit.
Because from both player and storyteller side, yeah, we fucking do that.
Yeah, it's
So
stupid shit.
don't leave a storyteller dangling in the wind by not at least giving us some
Right.
tiny direction of where you're thinking of going, or the multiple branching paths like they used to in the old Gehenna book for the end of the goddamn world. If they could give us the end of the world, you can give us this.
Right. So, additionally, like even with all the crazy shit's gone down in terms of like this incongruity of lore between previous editions and V5, that really are submitted, in my opinion, by this companion. This companion is definitely that the setter for the cement that says this is not the same game. It's not the same lore. We're not playing by the same rules. If they wanted to reverse that and say, no, it really is, it's just that since all the elders are gone, the neonates are left making up their own stories and they're not quite certain. I'd even buy that. But give us something definitive. Give us the lay of the land. Let us know the boundaries of the world we're playing in. Let us know the rules by which it functions, because they're not. And the excuse I consistently see for why they're not is we want to give player agency. And I'm
They
with
have
Nate.
that on their own.
Yeah, I'm with Nate. It's not your job. Your job's to write the setting. You're not. And the way I feel about this really inflames me as a person who makes up games and writes systems and has worked on other game systems. What the fuck? You're not the storyteller for my table. I'm the storyteller for my table. You don't get to tell the story for my table. You tell the story for the world, and I show that through a lens of my story to my table. You know, where we can have agency, we can change things if we want to, but it's like I don't get why the devs are taking it upon themselves to act as a storyteller to the World of Darkness players as a whole. That doesn't make sense to me.
What I find troubling about it too is that the big draw of Requiem was the sort of like neutrality of the meta plot. There isn't like a running meta plot throughout it. Okay, and that's fine. That's the draw of it. It's like here's your vampires and here's your town. Figure it out. Play the game for yourself. Here's some key elements, clans, factions, etc.
Some key players.
Right. But there's no like long term. Everything about the past is like mysterious and like who knows how where it came from, what happened. There's many stories. That's not what Vampire the Masquerade is.
No.
Vampire the Masquerade is a series of very well known plot line. Is a consistently running meta plot from beginning to end, right? And then it ended, and then you decided not to end it, and you decided to continue it, but you didn't continue it. You altered it into some other thing.
Mm-hmm.
So where are we in every edition previous? They make changes. The changes are small. They make sense. They're usually to fix. There's too many abilities, so we're going to narrow those down. There's this clan. We're gonna say, oh look, we've revealed. There's more to it. Not just like, here you go. Now we got bloody eyes. Fuck you. Have a day.
Right.
Also the argument, the thought that I was holding, the debate about the player agency. How do you stand on a platform of wanting to give player agency, but at the same time write a essentially linear item grab and make it 300-page book? How do you say we want to give players agency, but the basic premise of this is you have 5 quests to find 5 items and all roads lead to Rome?
Right.
How do you tell a linear tale and tell players that they have agency?
Yeah,
it's a cop-out. It's lazy writing. It's you not wanting to actually make statements and draw lines in sand and say, this is our story that we're telling. You can do whatever you want, but here's ours.
And I don't know what started that, because I know that like when OPP started doing the Chronicles of Darkness, they kept Requiem to be kind of like a nebulous thing, right? It's like you're saying, it's all based on individual cities. The past doesn't really play too much into it. The mythologies are different for every single clan. They have their own origin and creation stories. And that wasn't a big deal because that's what was expected. But when we come to like Masquerade, we're used to the long-running plots and storylines. And what got told to me today kind of shocked me, because I'd like to see the numbers on this, because I don't know what the data actually says. So I could very well be talking to my ass, but a statement was said to me earlier today on a server that the games, the books that we wrote meta plot in, people didn't buy because they didn't want to pay attention to the meta plot. So now the idea is to do open-ended meta plot so that we don't tie it down and people will buy the product. Mm-hmm. I'd really want to see the figures for that. Like I'd super.
I see them. They don't exist. And here's what the flaw in that is. While that may be actually true, that players didn't want to spend a bunch of money on books full of meta plot. If you look a little bit deeper than that, if you dig down just a few steps, you'll see that you have a company at the time in White Wolf that was putting out book after book after book after book. They were putting out, 13 books a year.
Flooding the market.
More.
Yeah.
Right. And that's just one line. Okay. That's one game line. That's for Vampire. You got 13 books in a year. You have 13 clan books. You have 13 or 12 or 10 books for Mage, for Werewolf, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you have a company now that is so bloated that the amount of money that they have to invest in these books, if that book doesn't sell as well, now they're at a huge loss. They're at a massive loss, right? They're investing so much money.
Yeah.
Well, what player are you gonna? What player are you going to convince to buy every single book of the line that comes out? So when you have that much material coming out, your buyers have to be picky and choosy. And if you have a book that doesn't sell as well because you have so much money invested in it, that's going to look like a loss to you. That's going to look like players don't buy those books. But the companies that are making them today aren't that company. They're not TSR. They're not White Wolf in the 90s.
Right.
They're not making that many books, and they're not investing that much money. So to say that players don't want meta plot, that's not true. Players don't want 13 books a year they have to buy to keep up with it.
I'd agree with that 100%. I mean,
Very true.
and somebody and,
Two
and I
books a year works.
yeah, but let's
Maybe
also
even 4.
let's also be honest. A big thing I saw as a huge drag to like why people didn't want to play like V20 and like this was an org thing, right? People thought that having to read 20 plus years of books for background meta plot was just a nightmare, and it
It's
made
hard
it
to get into.
yeah, it made it really like people were meta adverse due to that. But like, here's the deal: you have a fresh start now. If you make one solid storyteller's guide, one solid player's guide, you can handle the timeline issues. You just write down and present the data in an easy way to digest. And please, for fuck's sake, don't do we're doing it in letters, and each one's a different like typeface, and each one's a different letter background. Fuck that noise. I tried reading Secrets of the Covenants like that, and it's a fucking headache to read. And that does get me heated because like when you do shit like that, you're like, we want to give flavor and bring players down to like the level so that they can see how each individual vampire saw it. Don't. Just don't.
Explain your setting better.
If you want to do that, write a fucking novel. Like, with all due respect, make a fucking novel. If you want to get people into like the nitty gritty, like how each individual vampire handles or sees things, do it as like a small excerpt, or maybe do like the small essays that are written in a narrative style. Not the fucking letters interchange. It's always been really screwy to try to read and piece together, and it always comes across disjointed. I don't know who thought that was such a great idea, but clearly, not a thing.
Everybody's so angry.
In
No, I
Burrito
don't
Mage, it's not the
blame
only
them.
one. Angela was also written like that.
Yeah.
Gold font on white pages. No, thank you.
Yeah, no. That's
And there was
bad
a
idea.
lot of the fucking Book of Nod that did that too. Same with Revelations of the Dark Mother.
Oh,
Good
the
luck
first
fucking
book of
reading
Nod
it.
was a hot mess. It's since been fixed, but yeah, it was just that was just poor printing. That was all.
Yeah,
that was.
it's
But like,
and
more to what Ray's saying, it's not hard to change the tone of what's being written to denote that it's someone different. It's not hard to do that.
well, so
Literally any LARPer can do that.
well, it's not even just that, right? So like, if we want to make each clan book, whether it be like a collection of essays by members of the clan, that's cool to do. Just make it readable, right? Make it fucking readable. It wasn't scotch; it's actually bourbon. But make it readable for one, and for two. All right, so we did the autopsy report on accessibility, mechanics, setting, and you know, basically just like how approachable is everything. Make it approachable, make it accessible to people reading it. Don't have it be like, oh well, we referenced this one thing that only people who read this one obscure book 15 years ago that's now out of print would get. Be plain in your language. Make it accessible to new audiences. Because the biggest problem I've been running into on the World of Darkness Discord, and I run into a lot. Surprise. The biggest problem is that people want to read one book and understand a clan. Which I can sympathize with, but that's just not how the World of Darkness was written. So when the companion comes out and they give us 2 pages of splat for clans that have been really big figures and major players in the past of the World of Darkness, it's like, I feel like we left some stuff out, guys. Like, you know?
That was my main point when you sit down to read the Salubri. The Salubri are 2 columns this big, and that's all the meta plot information about them. The rest is like example characters, and quite frankly, I don't feel that's as necessary as actually providing information about them. And the information that you provided gives the player almost fucking nil to go off of to play the character, to play that clan with any understanding of what they're playing.
What it really makes me remember is like the Grey Book Salubri. Like when you open the Grey Book for LARP and read Salubri, yeah, they're seeking Golconda, they're trying to help others seek Golconda, but they're hunted. That's exactly what I got out of the companion and what I got out of the old Grey Book for LARP, which is a blurb about this big, a paragraph or so, really in text, full page width. So really, they did nothing to let us know about it. And then the Ravnos, like, all right, Ravnos have had a troubled story with the World of Darkness in terms of like issues with representation of, you know, travelers and the Romani.
They're not very PC, bro.
They were not very PC at all, and even this betrayal, this portrayal, kind of feels. It is a betrayal.
Here.
Kind of feels a little bit the same. And Jesse brought this up earlier. Like, I'm not as offended by it, but I see the similarities where it's like, you know, the Romani had to leave and travel a lot because they would potentially get killed by the people around them, and that's why they traveled.
Persecuted.
Right,
and labeled as thieves and
right. What you think we are, thieves? So going with the whole the pikey angle here, the Ravnos continually have to move around, still sticks with that angle, and they start talking about how the Ravnos associate with people with vices or carnies, and it's like you're making them to be like this weird. Still, like, we don't want to come out and say gypsy, but really we mean you're gypsy. It being with the fact that it's still considered a slur. It's like we're not want to say the word, but really that's what we're trying to portray here is what you still are. I was hoping for wandering mystics when they first started talking about what they were going to do with the Ravnos.
See, that I was kind of looking forward to. I'm like, oh my god, this might actually be like something new for the Ravnos. That could be really cool. And then I read it today, and I'm like,
which is not what we saw in the end.
Do you remember in Revised when they wrote the Ravnos and they were like, man, there's this crazy sect called the Ravnos, and they're from India, and they have like all these crazy like mystical origins, and they're like badass, and they hate like the European version, and then but also we're gonna kill this clan. And then in V20 they were like, yeah, it's still it's that stuff. It's like this crazy, it's this crazy like mystical, like the reason why the antediluvian woke up is because they embraced so many, it just in a war, it's this terrible war. But like probably not. I don't know. Maybe did the antediluvian die? We don't know. You make the choice. We don't know. And then now they're like, the antediluvian definitely died.
Yep, dead.
But I don't know. Like, we're not going to talk about any of the other stuff. I
don't
know, just whatever.
Yeah.
It just seemed weird. And then the Tzimisce, though, the Tzimisce got the largest bit of love, I think, still. And I think that their amalgams are the better ones, really.
Their amalgams are what this was.
This flesh crafting, horde form. Horde form seems all right. Like, it's not as... it's not as good as it was, but it's all right, relatively. The Tzimisce combos amalgams are, whatever. The Valoran ones. Yeah. The Valoran, which makes me laugh my ass off. Valoran's the healing power amalgam, if I'm not mistaken, for the Salubri amalgams. And it heals for shit. Unless you're taking a full scene to do it, it's a pretty shitty power.
Well, and then they just made Obeah like sense the sin, which I'm like, what?
Yeah, because I'm burning the bestial soul.
Like sense the sin.
Well, because I'm burning the bestial soul used to be where the Salubri would take the soul into their eye, but separates connections to its body so it can move on into the astral plane. To be a spirit devoid of body. Caporsano, I think it was the one where they took the person's soul into their eye and healed the wounds of humanity. So,
yes, and you could regain one humanity and one humanity only from it.
Right. So I think that it's weird to see how the direction they decided to go.
You know what's weird to me about all the disciplines? What's weird to me is that like they went out of their way with this new edition to like compartmentalize and narrow down all of the disciplines to like the base 8, but like didn't actually get rid of anything. So like now instead of going, I am a Tzimisce, I have vicissitude. I know to go to the book to look up my vicissitude. Now I have to go to a special book and look through 5 different disciplines to find it. How does that make your shit easier?
And then you finally realize that you can't get vicissitude until your 4th dot in a discipline if that is the discipline you're going for.
Yeah,
so you don't even have anything that makes you a you
until
level 4.
You mean until character creation? Until character creation, because character creation gives you 4 discipline dots, so you can get.
But
it's
but
not.
Then you spend your extra points to get that. But
no, you don't. No, you don't. You take 2 dots in Protean and 2 dots in Dominate. Yeah, vicissitude level 1. Boom, you're done. You're done. That's it. You don't need to have a level 4 discipline. You just have 2 dots in 2 different disciplines.
Well, that means I have to make sure my feeding aligns with allowing me to get a dot of Dominate, or that is not how it goes.
Not a character creation.
Remember,
character creation is just like, here's my 4 dots. Here's where I'm putting them. Boom, you're done.
Yeah. And then
that's not my debate though.
Either way, I don't like that they're amalgams to begin with.
No, I don't agree with
It's not really my debate. My debate is like you've reinvented the wheel to like to what end? Like it's a I guess it's a style preference. It just doesn't make sense to me that you had a discipline. You had plenty of fucking room for disciplines in earlier editions, and it was okay if particular clans had special disciplines. But in an effort to like remove that, you've made the system more complicated, and that just doesn't, to me, make any sense from a bookkeeping end or just like a logic sense. Like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Well, and then I brought up earlier to Ray, as we were talking before, just doing tech stuff. There's one glaring oversight that they've left out.
More than one, but
No, this one is pretty goddamn big.
I'd like to hear it.
So the whole thing about learning new disciplines, right, is no longer you have to drink the blood of somebody who has that discipline and then they teach you, right? It's not that. You just have to be attuned to the right flavor. The right little like word in the blood that you've drank to learn that discipline. Doesn't even have to be from another vampire. They did not, under Valren / Obeya / whatever the fuck they want to call the amalgam, under vicissitude or under chemistry, mention that it is only for the Ravnos, the Salubri, or the Tzimisce. So if I have Protean and I have Dominate and I'm a Ventru and I eat someone of the right type of blood, I can now get the vicissitude amalgam.
So what?
Yeah.
You should be able to.
I mean, they're not, these clan specifics as we're used to them being are no longer clan specifics. Unless they're specifically said to be, like, which in like the Camarilla book and the Ironheart book, I think Eyes of Serpent and one of the blood sorcery optional abilities for the Banu Hakim are specifically for those clans. This case, the amalgams are just, they're out there.
Yep. They just exist. So what's to stop somebody from playing a Toreador who learns Obeya or Valren or whatever the hell they call it? And now they have this power.
The story.
They have the third eye.
Just a storyteller.
No, they don't.
But they don't,
they don't
No, they
get the
don't.
eye.
They don't get the third eye.
oh, they don't get the third eye?
No.
'cause
Oh.
It's not connected
No,
to the
because it's-
discipline.
Right, that's just their clan bane.
Yep. It is.
Well, I guess there's a new way to create Salubri that doesn't involve having to break the masquerade every time you use a fucking power.
I mean, all that stuff, like I don't care about necessarily like the disciplines and like how they're learned or the resonance or any of that stuff. I think that like, blood and resonance and all of those things are pretty interesting. Those are pretty interesting parts of V5. I just don't understand the move to like remove all of those disciplines yet include them elsewhere, as if like the reinventing of the wheel is what blows my mind. What I don't understand, like, was it not okay to have like a base level of disciplines and then your combo disciplines, or what? Like, I just don't,
Yeah, I don't know. It just
I am confused.
it
Yeah.
seems super super.
In the end,
strange.
work smarter, not harder.
It's nitpicking,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Well,
I mean, admittedly, we are sitting here nitpicking, so.
but let's be honest. So, like, a lot of this stuff is really. They open it up for this type of thing because they did
Right.
such weird shit, and decisions were very strangely made. And there's no. I know that Achille did like a Q&A today with Outstar. I think I didn't watch it because I just don't.
Neither did I.
I didn't care to. I really didn't because it really. They opened up a new email for people to email their like feedback for the companion, and part of me is like, why? Are you really going to listen to it? Like, I don't think so.
And you gotta wonder, did this even go through QA?
Well, clearly it did. Like, the layout process is the last thing you had done, so when they did all that, it had to have gone through some sort of QA. But my question is, like, who the fuck play tested it? Because I really feel like it was done in a echo chamber.
Yeah.
Because we know that we know that
yeah.
Artstar was one of the play testers, which means, okay, so now you're sticking within the hierarchy of the company to do play tests. That's a mistake.
Right.
Because if you're so close to
They're
material,
going in with blinders on.
right? It's why like certain games, if there's a solo author, they take so long to write because you have to take breaks and come back with fresh eyes. You get so close to the material because you live and breathe it that you can't see the things that an outside perspective will see, which is why playtesting should not be done, by just a group of people who are wholly involved with the writing and developing that IP. It should have some people outside of that who are not part of that process so they can catch these things. Over the things I've done for writing, like the people who have caught the most interesting things were always people who had nothing to do with the creative process. And I don't think that was the case here, because Outstar was connected to this book, at least in an art sense, and obviously as a brand manager or like community brand manager aspect, and was one of the play testers. Sure, that's great for that being one person, but was the rest just people on the dev team? Because that's a huge mistake.
And it sure as hell feels like that's what it was. Was nobody else outside of them looked at any of this. And it's bad.
Well, I don't think it's horrible. I just think they've really, really missed the mark. Like, I'm not angry at the book. I am supremely disappointed with the book. I'm more upset with the fact that it gets more and more clear with every publication that they've rebooted the World of Darkness, and they just won't come clean and say it. That's what irks me. Like, just be honest with us, man. Like, because the first part of selling us something and being...
then we don't have to have previous expectations. We can be like, shit, what's new?
Right.
Exactly.
It's, for those who have been in retail, you understand the idea of setting expectations for the customer. And they need to set these expectations because right now, the expectations are it's going to be the continuation of the old World of Darkness. And this is clearly not the case as more and more stuff gets put out there. So, WTF, man. Like, just come clean with it. Like, we've rebooted the World of Darkness. We're taking inspiration from the 20 plus years of VTM that we had, which is awesome. But now we're going in a new direction using the same ideas for inspiration, but it's going to be a new product. Set the expectation, because I'm noticing this really interesting divide in people who really love or hate what they did with this book and the previous ones. And that divide is primarily centered on when did you start playing Vampire? Because people who started playing back in our days, like back in the 90s and like late 90s, early 2000s, we grew up with like Second Ed Revised, and then V20, etc., and all the stuff that's gone on between all that madness. And so we've got a connection to this lore. We've read these books. We've enjoyed this setting. We've gotten involved with it for multiple years. And we expect something different out of a continuation story that we're just not getting. Right. But then you have the people who came into either the tail end of V20 or V5 itself. And those are the people like, oh, this is the greatest thing to Slice Blood. This is awesome. You're talking about this Salubri thing. I like what you've done with it. But they don't have the baggage we have with these clans, the history that we have with this story coming into it. Which to me makes me kind of go like, what's Justin's thought process? Because he was one of us too. Like, he grew up and worked with this line. Like, he was been working on it since the 20 plus years now. What happened that made him completely do like this 180 to pop culture?
Well, so that's giving the impression that he is somehow in charge of how all those things roll out, which I don't think is the case.
Well, he's a creative director now.
I believe I believe like that's true. Like, obviously he's the creative director, but there is a company called Paradox, and most likely they're setting expectations about what they want to happen with that line. It's the same reason why we don't have Bali. Like, you could be creative director all day. If they tell you, we don't want any of this to be mentioned because it's a potential problem for us, it's not going to get mentioned. That's, to me, that's why, like, the Tzimisce, like, okay, great, they have a very awesome write-up, but like, even they have been dramatically toned down. The Salubri have been dramatically toned down, right? There's no mention of warriors. It's very like, and the Ravnos are the prime example of it. Like, the Ravnos are like, it's just so base zero. Like, he's a creative developer or creative lead or whatever he is, but that doesn't mean that like he is in charge of everything.
A lot of what's been going on in the last year, just across the spectrum of Vampire, can just be explained by 2 words. Why though?
Right. Well, so in generally a V5, I'm of 2 different minds. One is like, what the hell is this? What are you guys doing? Like, seriously, just get your shit together and let's try again with second edition V5. It's V6, as we would like to call it. On the other end,
5.5.
5.5, V5.5. But on the other end, I appreciate the changes need to be made, because they did. The line needed to evolve, which it did. You can't stay stagnant and just keep on republishing the same material. It's just a bad business move. So I get trying to evolve the storyline, but why are we devolving the storyline is my question. Like, I don't understand that part of it. Instead of being more complex and bringing more, like, detail and spotlight to these, you know, the diversity within the clans and how the clans have, like, a very storied history, we're cutting them down into, like, small sound bites on a page, essentially, right? Mm-hmm. We're distilling each clan down to, like, 2 paragraphs worth of text and having it be that, and you're just expected to know how we change the canon, because we're not going to explain it to you, but we're going to infer that things are not what you are used to in the name of agency.
It's kind of like, on one hand, it seems like they're going, well, you know, we're not particularly concerned with this old canon, with this old meta plot, whatever you want to call it, and we're just presenting the world as we want to present it now, which is great if you're, like, trying to attract legions of new fans and you don't want to overwhelm them. But, like, what about all of the fans who have these expectations? And what's worse than that, I think, is something that you have described, and I've noticed it too, is that there is, like, this entire, like, cross section of people that play this game, that it does not matter what they put out. These people are like, oh my God, it's so great. It's the best thing ever. It's so amazing. And you never hear anything critical from them at all. And to me, it's just like, am I so far off the mark with like my feelings about this material, which I don't think is terrible, and I don't think it's great. And every book I've read, I have legitimate criticisms for. And it turns out all the fucking books I read before, I have those too, they just don't apply now, because if you bring up criticism, it's like you're fucking ostracized from the island. You're banished.
Oh yeah.
You can't have a critical thought about this stuff. You can't.
This is why I'm glad Ray's on that page and not me.
Oh no, I got blackballed by a bunch of people on that Discord server, because ultimately it came down to is we had this talk, and I mentioned this previously in a discussion about the continuous rewrites of certain clans that leave things in a very nebulous state. It was about the Bali. And I was like, listen, because somebody's like, oh, I want to see the Bali in V5. I want to see my Infernalist brothers, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, all right, first off, you know that the Bali weren't Infernalists, right? Like, the Bali that were Infernalists missed the point. Like, they were made fun of. They were called the Nurgles. We let them hang out to dry and die so that the rest of us could survive, because they were stupid enough to think that they had some sort of kinship with Satan and they sold the souls of demons. They just missed the fucking point of the clan. Well, then you have V20 come out and Lord of the Bloodlines paints all the Bali pretty much as Infernalists.
As Infernalists.
And from Infernal lines. Now, for those of us who have read V20, we know that they kind of like to skip things and kind of leave you to read between the lines a lot. Go back to Dark Ages clan book. We serve the children, those that wait, right? The fucking things beyond our existence, and we want to wake them up. The Nurgles lost their fucking minds. They're like, oh, we have, you know, Hail Satan bullshit, which was never the case with the normal Bali. Right. And like, the Bali that I know from the clan books of that were written were like, we won't sell our souls a demon. We'll sell others. That's fine. But we're not going to be subservient to a thing that's really kind of a weird, weak reflection of the things that we really, worship from their way fucking beyond. And it's just so weird. And when you read the Black Handbook on top of that, they go, oh yeah, the children exist, but they were proto-humans. They're the prototypes that God made. They're not quite here. Their physical forms are here, but their minds are in another plane. And if they ever wake up, they're going to crack reality open like an egg. And it's like, okay, that's a really interesting take on them, but, whatever. But it's all from the point of the Malakim. And so this person comes in and goes, no, they're all infernal. Like, no, they're not. Have you read the Dark Ages clan book? No. Did you read the Black Hand book? No. What did you read? Lord of the Bloodlines.
That'd be why.
Right.
That's not the whole story. It should be. And that's just a bad way to write books. I'm like, but Vampire's always been written that way. You were always encouraged to check the other books out to get the story and connect the correlations. And,
it's the golden rule. It's here we are. We're going to present to you our story. Use what you'd like. Discard the rest.
Right. And so this person got so upset. I was like, listen, I'm just telling you what's in print. I disagree with you thinking they're all, Infernals, but if that's what works for your game, fuck it, man. Have fun. Do what works for your table. I'm just saying what's in print. And I got fucking lambasted for I think they thought I was Nate. Because I don't know if Nate got in an argument with somebody about some shit about being stupid. They're like, you pulled this same thing with somebody else. I'm like, who else have I argued with here? Like, nobody. And then
I don't think I've ever gotten in an argument on any Discord server because I keep it real.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but 5 people turned on my ass, and nobody talked to me for almost a month on that server. I was like, all right, whatever. But then
I've never really said anything on that server at all.
Well, you had that one with that one dude, that little scrap you had about some stupid thing.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that was relatively new too, but it was the same basic principle.
Right, and so this happened shortly after that, about a week or two's time, and they're like, you did the same thing with somebody else. I'm like, who do you? I've got somebody messaging me and saying you argued this way. I'm like, I don't know who you're talking about, but okay. But the community definitely blackballed me for that. And when I came back about the companion, I came into the server just to see what was going on, right? To watch
what
the train wreck,
was.
to watch the dumpster fire take light, and immediately I'm struck with people accusing moderators of quashing dissenting voices. People who didn't like the book or saw problems with the book that they wanted to talk about, because that's the point of the Discord server. And moderators were taking hardline stances, going, "You're being rude and disrespectful." I'm saying I didn't like this, and I don't understand it. How's that being rude and disrespectful? It just is. Whoa. So yeah, definitely to take this a long way. Nate. A lot of people who were trying to give a criticism or say what they didn't like about the book were definitely cast aside and going, you're not a fan.
Yeah.
You're a troll.
You see it in Facebook groups. You see it in Discord servers. You see it on Twitter. You see it all over the place. And it's this. I'm digging myself a hole here, but there's
nobody watches anyway. You're good.
I mean, admittedly, I think we've all started swapping from the shovels to the jackhammer at this point. We're all going.
There's just this mentality that as long as you think one way, then you're fine. You're great. You're good. As long as you buy in, you're fine to this very specific idea and mindset. But the moment you question any of that, the moment you start to go, hey, does this make any sense? Suddenly you're you're pariah. You're not cool enough to be in the group. And it's kind of a reverse of how it used to be.
It's no longer the outcast.
I played Vampire, right? I played Vampire for a long fucking time, and there were always people who were like, I'm elite, you can't be part of this group. And now it's if you are, it's the opposite, but it's the exact opposite.
Yeah, and go ahead.
I can actually see, because history likes to repeat itself, and we all know this. Anyone who doesn't learn from history is doomed to repeat it. For the people who are sitting there going, we don't want to have to read 20 years of books to understand what the hell's going on. What do you think's going to happen here? People are going to clamor for more and more and more. And what's going to happen? You're going to get clan books. You're going to get more meta books. And you're going to wind up with the same shit.
Well, we're not going to see clan books.
For the next 20 years.
I don't think we're going to see clan books because they didn't sell, right?
Well, not just not clan books specifically, but that continuation of the meta.
Right. Well,
which is ridiculous because everybody I know had at least one of damn near every clan book, if not multiples of a clan book.
You knew a very particular group of people.
They have a particular set of skills.
I think that they can call that down and just doing a good comprehensive player's guide, 200 or so pages. Same thing as Storyteller's Guide. Here's the under the hood, what we're doing behind the scenes. And it would clarify a lot of things. You can take that 20 years of plot and condense it. Hardcore. We see it happen all the time with timelines. It's just that I don't think they're going to do it. And moreover, I don't think they feel they should do it. I think that they feel hey, we're making the books, so consume. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just one of those things where the gatekeeping on this fandom has gotten really weird. Really weird. Because
that's a word for it.
Yeah, it's gotten super strange. If you don't conform, if you don't want to swallow down every iota and say, please can I have some more, you're somehow betraying the idea.
Echo chamber.
Right, and that is one thing. I feel like this companion, to loop back around, I feel like the companion was developed in an echo chamber. I feel like nobody was around to stop and go, hey guys, whoa, can we stop? this doesn't make sense.
I'm out.
We need to make it make sense. Like, I need to say no to this because it needs to make sense. What about all of this or all of that? And nobody did that. It just seemed like it was this straight idea from start to finish that nobody stopped to take time to digest what was going on, what they were putting out there, to really think about the implications of what they were putting in print before putting it in print.
Right.
And what's funny about that is they actually have a diversity reader for the book, which was great. Something they should have had for like the first book. But at the same point in time, they should have had somebody to go over for canonical thing. Because let's be honest, 20 plus years of fucking lore for the World of Darkness, they need somebody in charge of canon. Lucasfilms has somebody that does it. That's his whole fucking job, is keep track of all the canon shit. At this point in time, with all the lore for all the different lines, the World of Darkness is one too. Because they keep on just disregarding shit that happened, that they wrote themselves in previous iterations of the company or writers or whatever. But they need to keep those into account if they're trying to continue the same line. Or alternatively, be honest and go, hey, it's a reboot. We're doing a brand new thing.
Yeah, we don't care. We don't give a shit. It is what it
Either
is.
way,
I
make it
think
make
it's like
fucking
anything.
sense.
I'm sorry, Jeff.
No, I was just gonna say either way, just make it make fucking sense. It's all people are asking, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like it suffers from the same thing that the original By Night Studios Mind's Eye Theater book suffered from, which is being built by committee. When you just go, okay, I'm just going to query the fan base and find out whatever they are complaining most about, and then that's what I'm going to include. It's like the analogy that I gave you earlier. It's like you have 15 ingredients, and you decide, regardless of what ingredients you have, you're going to make a chocolate cake. And everything that you have, you're going to jam into that chocolate cake, regardless of how the ingredients complement the chocolate cake that you're making. So stop making a fucking chocolate cake and use the ingredients you have to make something that they should be.
Right. And I think that this runs afoul of, I gotta bring this back to what I do, so I apologize. This runs afoul of improper use of customer data.
Yeah.
If they had taken actual done good surveys and actually did real data analysis, which it really does not feel like they did, to make their plans for what they wanted to include and what they wanted to change and keep, etc. It just feels like somebody goes, I'm gonna put together a survey on the fucking Survey Monkey and run a quick thing in Excel, and I know what data says. Wrong. You don't. There are certain tests that you do called factor analysis to see what kind of answers group together, to find trends, to analyze the data more accurately, to see actually what the underlying opinions are being, where the threads connect, and how to better navigate that space of data. Here it just feels like, oh, I did a thing on SurveyMonkey, so that's really great. We'll see what most people said, and we'll go with that. Not the way you analyze data.
Dude,
Oh, yeah.
all you should have to say to somebody, okay, hey, Ray, you haven't played since 2nd edition. Would you like to know how fucked up things are in the Vampire the Masquerade world right now from a printout perspective? Yeah, they just put out a 66-page book, and included in it are the Ravnos, the Tzimisce, and the Salubri. Why are they sharing the same book? And they're the only clans in there.
Yeah.
So wait.
Yep.
Why weren't those clans included in their respective Sabbat or Camarilla or base books? Oh, well, because we just didn't make them, and now we're just obligated to make them. So here's a fucking page of a shit show of a clan write-up.
Yeah,
Fuck their hand.
and honestly, when we got word that La Sombra was coming out in the Chicago by Night book, you know what that felt like to me?
Embrace tranquility.
Yeah,
It felt like DLC, right? It felt
Yeah.
like
right,
I'm paying for the DLC pack for the Chicago City and the
Right.
La Sombra. And I was like, that's super video game company.
Welcome to the EA paywall.
Right. Thank you, Chris, by the way, for the sub, man. I really, really appreciate it. And it's 4-month streak. Thank you, man. That's awesome.
Where's my microtransactions?
Uh-oh.
That's what I want.
Yeah, well, that's
Oh,
when
we
you start
just
buying.
had one. This was the free taste. This
Right.
was your free loot box.
Yeah, this was like the loot box for the month, and next thing you got to pay for, which will have something else in it.
The
Next
Sabbat,
thing coming down the
you get to pay-
pipeline is the Sabbat, isn't it?
Yeah.
What are they even going to
Well,
do
what do we
with it
need
at
the
this
Sabbat
point?
for? We already have both of the
We
clans.
have-
Oh, but that's
we
where
have all the
that's where
clans
they're
that
gonna give us.
matter.
That's where they're going to give us the Kiasid, the Leonin, and shit like that. But they're all dead in the modern day, so you can only use them in a Dark Ages version if you run that.
Yeah, well, they'll probably.
I will literally.
Oh, and by
bang
the
my
way,
head.
that's $60. Thank you.
I will bang my head on every
back.
wall in my house if they fucking do that. I will literally do it.
The Sabbat book will have the Salubri Anti-Tribute DLC attached to it. That's what you'll get in that package.
But they're all seeking Golconda, Ray.
All 7 of them, or was there
All 7 of them. They
All
had
right.
a little powwow
So you
where
guys
nobody
just,
used the power.
You guys keep poking the fucking bear in the Salubri shit. Like, I'm just...
No, this is called putting a quarter in you. Shake and throw.
It's bullshit. The Salubri
No,
stuff
it
they
is.
did is
No, see what it
bullshit.
is? What it is 6 of them are seeking Golconda. That 7th is running off to make the Bali clan for red.
You know what's some
Oh,
bullshit?
there we go. That's what it is.
You know what? All right. Let's time out here. It would actually be a payoff to me, almost worth it, if they made the Bali a lore sheep bloodline for the Salubri. I would laugh my ass off, but they won't. So, anyways,
No, they won't be including that clan in anything. As far as I know, we're not going to see them in any future editions.
yeah, because scary and non-PC, but they're gonna throw in flesh crafters because whatever.
Because warping the human
But-
body is not terrifying.
But no, Salubri thing is a load of shit because everything we saw from like Second Revised and the Sabbat Guide back in the day and fucking the V20 book that came out to kind of push that forward and kind of like
Or the Bloodlines.
let us know, and lower the bloodlines. Basically, the rest of this clan Salubri were hiding out and going, "What the fuck, bro?" To those that were only the Diablo Rising 7, that was kind of like a, "What are you doing?" And even in the Dark Ages book, their clan book was like, "Yeah, Via Dolorosa is a thing. If they're people doing weird stuff, we don't really,
We don't understand what this is. We're just.
It's like
staying
when
the
you
fuck
watch
out
The
of it.
Mandalorian and you find out that the Jinn is actually part of a religious fanatical sect. You're like, oh, they're not all like that, and they're more out there. That's literally what happened to Salubri once the Revised and V20 hit. They actually brought to play all the seeds they had planted and said, no, the clan's much more populous than people think. They just hide out very, very well. Because you had the Wuzhou, you had the Watchers, you had all the other factions from the fucking, the Alamin, from the Ashira, all those factions still out there, and they were still even included in the Western world too, but we just didn't talk about it. But they were there. But then now this hits, and it's like, yeah, that was a fever dream. Pay it no attention.
Look, guys, I am in no way going to advocate anybody plays V5, and I will not be able to enjoy it until the Daughters of Cacophony are brought into it. So,
Hey,
Oh, you mean the Sons of
only-
Discord?
That's the same books the same book they're going to reintroduce Bardo amalgams, and I will burn it.
For those who are just watching, Jeff has a huge problem with the Children of Osiris. We don't know why.
Bardo.
They heard him.
Bardo. Let's be fair.
Jeff-
Children of Osiris can be played. They can be twisted. Setites cool. Bardo is what I have a fucking problem with.
Where did it-
You're a vampire. I'm going to give you the power over the main thing, the main bane of all vampires. Have a day.
I mean, where on the dial did it hurt you?
Oh, right in the Pepe area.
But
I'd say that right about here in the dome.
Right in my dome
the truth
piece.
is, I'm going to continue to purchase these products because
We all will.
I am invested. I am in for a penny, in for a pound. And quite honestly, when the Sabbat book does come out, I'm going to buy it.
Yeah, so will I. Like, no doubt. It's just that. So here's the question somebody asked me, like, hey, when the companion drops, are you going to be upset if they screw over the Tzimisce and the Salubri? And I said no, because I already wrote them. Like, I already have a
true.
V5 write-up that I'm
He does.
more than happy to use,
And it's great.
as opposed
It is
to this
Far better than what just came out.
travesty of a development product came out to be. And I really would like to see the numbers. Like if we can get like 1,000-person survey of the people who picked this book up for free, whatever, because they got 10,000 people that downloaded apparently. I would love to get 10% of those people to do a survey and respond to like 15 questions and see where the lines were really drawn with this fucking book. Because I don't think everything is roses and wine in the Lands of the World of Darkness fans. I think that this had a lot more divisive reaction to it
Feedback.
than people want to really admit to. Because I know a lot of people that I follow on Twitter, etc., are people who are trying to make a name for themselves and like do the different podcasts and all for the World of Darkness. And let's be completely honest here. I'm going to be honest because I really have no illusions that I'm going to be working for like the WOT team anytime soon. It's just they're trying to make sure that they don't like kind of burn those bridges. And for me, I'm honest about it. Like I don't think that this was a book worth being done. A lot of effort was done in it. I think they should have just done the ghouls and morals and the errata and left it a fucking day, because these clans were not ready to be launched. They were not well thought out. They were not well written. They were not well play tested. So I feel that they rushed to get something out and try to answer the calls for people going, we want Tzimisce, we want to know what happened to Ravnos. And nobody was asking for Salubri yet, to be completely honest. Not that I saw anywhere. So, like, why they...
Never heard anybody.
And honestly, as fans of your product, and we've, like Nate had said earlier, we're in for a penny, in for a pound. We've been buying these books for years. We want quality, not quantity, guys.
Yeah.
Well, it's free, right?
Right, but take
free
your
or
time.
otherwise.
Right. It's...
No, I agree. It's...
But they could have made it pay.
Provide me with something
It better have been worth money.
So somebody brought something up earlier in the World of Darkness chat in your Discord, Ray, because I'm not part of that other one. But somebody mentioned that this, and I think it was Sean actually, mentioned that this looked like it was literally just the last little bits of what Modifius had.
No, that was...
And
that
it was
was
their disjointed notes.
That was Burrito. And I don't agree,
Was that correct?
because... Yeah, this was supposed to be the first offering of the World of Darkness team under Justin's like supervision. So I don't think that's the case. I think maybe they may have taken those notes as a guidepost, like where we're going to start at. But they definitely did their own thing with it, and that's what worries me, because this is supposed to be.
Oh, that was the Chris's, both of them.
This is supposed to be like that first offering of what we're gonna, a taste of what we're gonna see from the World of Darkness team, and it was not worth the wait. Like it was.
If that's the case, it was undercooked and bad.
This was like
seems like it's indicative of 2020.
Yeah, this definitely is a 2020 book. I'll say that for damn sure. But I just don't. I think people want to give lip service to the book that have more presence in terms of social media because they're trying to curry good favor. And to be completely honest, there have been cases in the past that people have said that certain development people involved with the World of Darkness IP have blacklisted them from working with them because of them giving the World of Darkness criticisms in the past.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
So like I know a lot of what we're going to see. Yeah, a lot of we've seen a lot of people who are going to like sing praises of this book that are going to give it like 5 out of 5 stars. Maybe some of them are sincere, but I would be willing to wager that some of them also are afraid that if they say bad things about this book, they will not have access to talk to people, nor will they have potential partnerships going forward with the World of Darkness team. And I think that's a bad way to do business, because you need objective looks at your product. You need people to look objectively at the things you're offering so they can show you perspectives that in the vacuum, in the echo chamber, you're not going to see or hear. And it only serves to make a product better. I want the World of Darkness stuff to succeed. I want it to be a good product. I want people to really, really enjoy it, and I want it to make sense. I don't want it to fail. I'm going to buy it. It's just I don't feel that they're giving it its due. I think that they're really kind of undercutting the potential of this line.
I don't disagree with you. And I think the term you're looking for is sycophants. There are a vast quantity of sycophants that, the concept is, to me, indicative of a lack of personal integrity. And, I have no loyalty to any of these companies. I have loyalty to the game.
Right.
And if the game is being made in a way that is disregarding or disrespectful of what's come before it, I'm not going to hesitate to say something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not.
Yeah.
And anyone that has integrity, that, and here's the thing. I'm not saying that everybody who has a positive opinion of it is lacking integrity. The taste is a subjective thing. Everybody has their own idea of what's good and what's bad. But I think that there are a number of people, a number of groups, communities that just kind of just lavish praise on everything that comes out. I saw a great example of that when I did my review of The Fall of London.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it is unmistakably trash. Like it's bad top to bottom. It's bad.
Yeah,
written,
but
it's bad story. It's bad edit. It's bad proofread, and people just showered it with praise.
But Nate, sorry, not sorry. Smiley face.
Right.
Teens.
It's like and when someone approaches you as an author or you are an author and you get approached by someone and they're like, hey, what's the deal? You probably shouldn't be like, sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, no, that's just bad form.
That's shitty. Like that's a shitty way to respond to people. And I understand it probably is shitty to have to deal with a bunch of asshole fans coming at you, but make better work.
Yeah.
I have someone that isn't you look at it.
I agree. And like that's why I think in some ways the Storyteller's Vault opening up the 5th edition might be a saving grace. Because I think that there's enough fans who have been with the product for so long that they could write some good stuff for it. That I think that it's missing from 5th edition right now. Some alternative takes would be very, very helpful at this point in time, but I know that it's likely not to happen for a long time, if ever, for V5. But
imagine that a book about a bunch of damned creatures is lacking soul.
Oh yeah, it is. There's definitely effort was put into it. I'll say that.
Yeah, effort was put into it. I'm sure there was some heart there.
The art
itself was fucking fantastic. I enjoyed the art.
The art was pretty good.
But it's lacking soul.
I think the companion should have just been about. It should have been another Liber des Ghouls. Like honestly, like Immortals and just Ghouls and errata. I think that the clans should have been. They should have fermented a bit more. They should have baked them a little longer, to use the cake thing earlier, to make sure it came out, set and even.
Right.
Because this was an underdone product they just released. I really don't know what else to say about it. It should have been left to set. Like it didn't. I don't feel there's enough time between writing and publication for people to sit back and go, here's our product, cool, it's done, let's sit back for a bit to get fresh eyes and come back to it, because clearly it was an echo chamber. And then go, okay, I see what we did here. What was our goal? We'll look at our style sheet. Cool. We should probably fix this a little bit. I don't feel that was done.
No.
I would agree.
I'd say, and we can sit here and keep hammering on that all night if we wanted to.
But I don't think we should.
People watching this might think that this is an echo chamber, and in this case, it kind of is.
I do
But
science.
we
One takes brains, the
we
other
all
takes
as
dark
friends, we disagree on all sorts of shit in the world of darkness.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The fact that we all agree on this should say something.
Yeah.
110%.
Yeah,
I don't have near as much a problem with Bardo as Jeff does.
I never even read Bardo.
I don't care about Bardo. It didn't offend me. It offends the shit out of Jeff.
Give no
It
fucks
does.
about
It
no
bothers me.
Bardos.
It's just I think that we often have similar opinions on a lot of things because we've been gaming together for so long. But I think that's because a lot of us have kind of helped shape the other people's opinions by the things that we brought to the table in different games and stuff like that. Obviously, we still have very much independent opinions. Like I don't agree with Jesse that Werewolf the Apocalypse is a fun game. It's just how that works.
And I don't agree with you that Nosferatu are trash.
I mean, you can be. Everybody's entitled to being wrong, Jesse. Like it's just.
Yes, I know you do it often. Every time we talk about Werewolf.
Don't take it personally. Yeah, I
I'm with
see
you.
that.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
A heart you, Nate.
But it's just, when we all unite this strongly about a release, that says something. And Jeff said it very well. It definitely does say some shit.
That we can all actually sit down and agree that this is just no.
Because, I disagree with
You
Nate.
better watch out when the loyalists and the conservatives, the ultra conservatives, get together.
Right, that shit gets crazy.
Somebody's fucked.
And when the
Somebody's,
moderates are actually sitting here agreeing with both sides,
somebody's getting.
that's a problem.
Somebody's having a fucking bad day. But I think that the Ravnos Bane is bullshit. Nate thinks it's more of harassment than I do. And that's fine. But we still think it's just not a good Bane. You know, like that's a clear thing. You know, come up with something else. Take back to the drawing board, guys.
The
swing and a
only
miss.
thing I could think of that was like as potentially lethal remotely was the old Setites. You know, you take double damage from sunlight, and you know you're ultra sensitive to the light, which makes sense because they worship a god
Or God
Set.
of darkness.
of darkness, right?
Right.
Like you get it.
The fuck underworld.
It's
Right.
been that way. But now, if you don't have your bag of marbles, you take 4 out.
Right.
Or if you don't move 1 mile down the road every night.
If you don't take it down to
burst into
the
flames.
Shell station,
Right. And so it's funny.
Where you sleeping tonight? Oh, the Walmart parking lot, guys. I got this primo spot.
So what's funny about it
This
is
awesome Rockstar parking spot.
the funny part about it is even if you miss like a night and have to sleep in the same place twice, if you're normal blood potency 1 or 2, you're only rolling 2 dice and you only take damage on a 10. So average, you might be taking a point if you're
God
unlucky.
forbid you're a Salubri and use Presence 1. Heaven help you if you're a Salubri and use Presence 1.
Oh, blah, blood.
Bleh.
You'd be
either
like,
way,
so
Oh, my coterie ate me. I'm gonna make a brouhaha and fuck my coterie up.
Salubri are just a reenactment of Carrie. All right.
to me, it's like first.
Yeah,
of all,
kind of
The
actually.
first thing that came to my mind when I saw that they were doomed, but no, that wasn't. It was the Salubri that are doomed, right?
No, it's the Ravnos.
it's
It
the
says they are
Ravnos that are
doomed.
doomed.
I was like, yeah, the Ravnos. The first thing that came to my mind.
They are so
was,
doomed. It's italicized and bolded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In
it
a
was
slightly different font.
fucking Friday the 13th. You're doomed. You're all doomed.
You're all doomed.
Oh,
And
my
now that I
God.
have seen that in my mind's eye, that is never going to stop, and I fucking hate you, Nate.
I can't think
Don't
of
play Ravnos in
fucking.
my game.
I can't think of Fall London without thinking
I
of.
rarely play Ravnos anyway.
Yeah, I can't think of Fall London without thinking in my head. Sorry, not sorry. Tee. You know, it just. I'm like, what the fuck? Who says that? Like, as a writer who's like, I want to open doors and connect with my readers. Sorry, not sorry.
Right.
You
That
know, like-
ensures I will never buy his shit. No
What are
matter
you
what he puts
connected
the fuck
to?
out,
Because
he's a
I'm not
douche.
reading it. And what was funny
That's
is
another
when I
mental soundbite that's never going to leave.
when I
God damn
posted
it.
when I posted that screenshot in Nate's server, I cut the name off on purpose. And he's like, "You savage."
I know I was like, fuck you.
I
Oh.
hate. I have hate. I have so
I
much
just-
hate.
You know, and it's sad because I really, really do want to see this line succeed. I really, really do want to see it do
Yeah.
very well. And I really,
it'd be
really
nice to
would.
get some fresh blood after 20 years.
Right, and I really, really would love to write for it. But the fact of the matter is, I'm not going to sugarcoat a fucking piece of shit. It's a piece of shit. If it's a piece of shit, you put as much perfume as it wants, it still stinks. You know, it's one of those things where I'm like, I have to be honest. Like, I'm not going to sell myself out for that. Like, it's just still bad. I think that they should have worked over the clans more. I think V5 and S in general they need to stop, take a step back, and consider what it is that their goal is with this product line, because the message has been inconsistently delivered each book. Like, the core book had one message about how the world works, slightly altered by the Anarch books, but not that much. And then Chicago by Night, the next major supplement came out, and it was like, we're going to change all that shit on you. Like, somebody in Nate's server was like, yeah, I'm glad that they got rid of the elders and made it to where, like, the young can take power because it refreshes things. And we're like, yeah, don't read Chicago by Night.
Yeah, don't do that.
Just
I
don't.
mean, it does follow the concept of the younger prince in that Kevin Jackson is Prince, but like Kevin Jackson, to be fair, was in line to be Prince in Chicago by Night Second Edition.
Right.
Right.
So
And KJ
like,
is
that's
still an
not-
elder. Like, even
Well.
though he's young, by generation, he's still an elder.
Yeah, by generation, I'll
Sure.
give you that. Yeah.
But even like Damien, who's like what, a 6th generation Bruja, is starting to feel the first parts of the
Yeah.
call now, because the
Yeah.
beckoning we've heard is like not just
And he
generation,
was
but it's
just
also
embraced in the
age.
60s.
Right.
Right. Well, KJ was in the 80s, I want to say, 70s.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
No, he's
Something like
80s.
that.
Jackson.
I think it was
Kevin
80s.
Jackson, I believe, was embraced in the.
Pretty sure it was 80s.
I think
He
it
was
was
embraced
I think it
as-
was early 80s.
He was born in the 60s.
He's like, but
Doesn't matter. He's
but either way, like
He was born at some point.
we see inconsistent like delivery of the rules for the beckoning, and that's the problem. But I did get interesting insight today over a discussion in Nate's server, which people should join.
I have a server.
But it was somebody saying we used it to clear out the dead wood, but kept the interesting elders that still have plot things to offer. Everybody else got summoned by the beckoning. But
So if you were boring, you got beckoned.
right, so if you were boring, you got beckoned and axed.
So,
But if you were boring to your standards, not mine,
Yeah. I'd say there's a couple elders there that I'm going, but why?
what am I answering you, Nate?
Answer me this, if you will, sir. If only the boring characters got summoned and you cleared out all of the wood, then why then are you referencing Tyler in almost every fucking book, but she got summoned?
All right,
That's a good fucking point.
And I mean, Papa down in chat's got what the fuck does Helena still have to offer? Which is where my brain went, was why the fuck is she still here?
Hey, man, he's learning from the Tremere now.
Yes. To answer your question, Chris, Helena has plenty of plot-based elements to offer in the sense that we really wanted to have the Succubus Club back, and she runs it.
So the Succubus Club was a directive, though, from Paradox. Like, yeah, Succubus Club has to be in Chicago by night. That was definitive.
But she didn't have to run it. It could have been taken over by some younger vampire.
Yeah, it could have been another Thin Blood.
But Brett Stryker was boring.
Guys, you're missing a very important aspect of this conversation. There literally already was one in canon who ran a mobile Succubus Club that went from city to city. So it was already there. You didn't need to bring her. You could have just told her to fuck off.
Yeah.
And I mean, admittedly, her age's-old enemy's dead, so...
Well, he's been beckoned or something. We don't know where he's
No,
at.
he's dead. Well, at least as far as Critias is concerned, he's fucking dead. And that brings us to Critias. Critias, like, why? So how many Bruhari would just to ring up the old 5th gen? Be like, hey, Critias, what's hanging, man?
Hey, yo, Big C, what up?
I
Right.
need you to come, to my class where I teach a path, but we don't use paths no more, so don't worry about that so much.
Right. So that was just kind of weird that Critias was there. I like that he's going insane. That I appreciated. But at the same point in time, like, okay, cool. But still, why is he here? Make him a Gehenna plotline. The rampaging Critias is losing his fucking mind in the Gehenna war. Could be interesting. But no.
Yeah.
No.
He's an old potent fuck.
Because we know Nikolai got done dirty by DeSable. At least that's what's implied in CBN.
Right.
Well, admittedly, Nikolai fucking deserved it.
What's implied is that
Nikolai
he
was a piece
went
of
to
shit.
Vienna and he got smoked when the Chantry got destroyed.
Well, they also talk about the fact that DeSable might have actually killed him instead of him actually making it to there. But no, I just don't know, like,
Who knows?
the incongruity between like the core book going, yeah, the Cam's elite elders, and then it's like you read CBN and it's like, oh yeah, these Thin Bloods are cool with fucking KJ, and they just run all the clubs in the city, and KJ lets them run it. Okay.
Thin Bloods.
Oh, Thin Bloods. Thin Bloods are the focus, man. Don't you know that?
This is
Fucking
Time of the
trash.
Thin Blood revamped.
They're stupid and they're trash, and I hate them, and they're the worst part of the game. In my opinion, I don't have any. I'm not making any statements. No declarative statements, just expressing opinions.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The Succubus Club is 2 boss from the Archdiocese. Yes, it is. On purpose, I was told. I was like, what?
If you really want to stick it to the second Inquisition, that's how you do it, I
Alana
guess.
Zab is dead.
Alanajov got killed.
Yeah, he got killed off screen by the Second Inquisition.
Yeah. Yeah.
Many things have occurred off screen these days.
Well, yeah, they had to. I'm with this book coming out the way it has and being formatted like it is. I'm concerned about the Sabbat book, to be completely honest, coming out.
Very.
Me too.
Yeah.
Like,
Sabbat was my favorite sect, and now I'm dreading the day it comes out.
well, so they gave the Church of Cain a lot of their rituals, right?
Right?
Sermons, fire dance, shit like that. So I'm like, what's
Because,
And
Traitors to the Sabbat would be allowed to
the
live.
the two clans that exclusively hung with the Sabbat are now Anarch or Cam. So what's
Well,
left?
Cam or Cam adjacent.
Yeah, ish. Yeah. It's you know, the Tzimisce are still, you know, there's Anarchs, but I mean, there's still Sabbat, but like there's, you know, a lot of them have gone to the Anarch. It's just,
I mean,
it's all-
admittedly,
it's all
again, they
very
didn't have
vague.
to go Anarch. They could have just been Autarchus, which was what they were before if they weren't Sabbat.
Well, so that's the thing, though. Like, there are no independent clans right now except for the Hekata. They're the only independent clan / sect that exists. Everybody else joined a sect. They made a big point of that, and so the books, like, yeah, there's only the only independents are the Hekata. That's it. And in the Blood Gods book, they make very clear to reference, like, yeah, we're alone. We're the only true independents.
Still makes no sense as to why the two that were running the Sabbat are no longer running the Sabbat. I mean, Lasombra, okay, be afraid of your void. That's fine. Like, flee your void.
Well, so the
But
Lasombra...
Tzimisce?
The Lasombra I kind of get because, let's be honest, the Friends of Night shit needed to be taken care of. Like, that had to fucking go down.
Fair.
That was just ridiculous. But I don't think the vast majority should have defected, especially now with the price that Camarilla is demanding of them. No economy have been brought up, chat.
What strikes me as very bizarre is that these various Lasombra bishops, archbishops, etc., would just willingly sacrifice themselves so that the rest of their clan could join the Camarilla, when the Lasombra are the most cutthroat, out for themselves motherfuckers to ever have walked the night.
Yeah.
That's what baffles the shit out of me, really and truly, and it's something I've kind of kept to myself because it's like, okay, cool, the Lasombra move, it's, you know, it's like a nice little shake up, but one of these things that I've heard is like, oh, well, the Lasombra left, and like, you know, the Lasombra, they already killed their antediluvian, and now they know that antediluvian's alive, and so you join the Camarilla. That's going to protect you,
Right.
So
Right.
So you
Now-
leave.
You leave the sect
You leave
that
the
is
job
meant
undone.
to hunt them.
Right. You
Like-
leave the job undone. You didn't accomplish your goal. You couldn't finish the job. And so now you, this clan of cutthroat, hardcore individualists who take people and break them down to their very base natures and make them fight and stab and choke for everything they want. You all just like, well, now I'm going to sacrifice. Like, how does a clan that a vast majority of them are on the path of night say, yeah, we're just going to screw it. You can kill me. I'm cool.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah,
the
and
only thing...
what individual vampire, with the exception of a rare few, do that? Your beast, the very fucking essence of you, wants to live at all costs. Nah, I'm gonna give it up for the greater good of my clan. No, you're fucking not. Fuck your clan. They're trying to kill you. Well, I guess you're independent on your own now, because fuck them.
See, the way that I read that was that the
That makes
younger
sense.
the younger Lasombra were hunting the elders to turn them in so they can join the camp. I didn't read
Which
it
is
as,
more understandable.
right. I didn't read it as the elders sacrifice themselves, because even Talia was like, "Yeah, fucking bring it." Like I dare you to come and try to get your justice from both sides. I'll fuck everybody up. You know, that's how I took Talia's statement, was like, they're not sacrificing themselves, they're being hunted. And somebody else was like, you know, come and make your name, son. We'll see if you can
So-
stand up.
A good
And
example of one. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And saying, if that is the case, if what Nate is saying turns out to be the case, that the elders were just like, yeah, okay, kill us, the only way I could see that working for the Lasombra is if it was a massive plot across the whole fucking clan to then go into the Camarilla cities, convert the people they could convert, and kill everybody else.
But there's no point in converting at this point, really, because like everybody who's of worthy blood is being called to the fight anyways. You know what I mean? Like, and then you got the Church of Cain already diluting the message of the Sabbat with crazy shit. You've got the Camarilla embracing antediluvian worship. It's like,
Another big point that makes you go, what?
yeah,
So my example is Carolina Velez. Carolina Velez was the Archbishop of Montreal.
Montreal, yeah.
In Chicago by Night, it specifically states she sacrificed herself so that the clan, to assist the clan in joining the Camarilla.
That's bullshit.
And she is on Path of Night in the old books.
I don't know what path she's on, but I just know.
Well, they don't have paths, so.
Well, now they don't.
She's
have
on
Well,
humanity.
now they don't.
Right. They have touchstones, and if your person gets killed, you go to a sale. It's like, okay. Anyways, I don't want to nitpick, but
No
it's just
vampire is over 100.
it's just like it doesn't really connect to me. Maybe it's my fault. Maybe the disconnect is all me.
How dare you?
No, I'm pretty sure we all have that disconnect somewhere.
Yeah, no, I don't remember that. So yeah, definitely that changes things.
It changes a lot of things and brings up a lot more questions than it answers.
Well, it just really for me furthers. It furthers the way.
Yeah, she was either on Night or PIV. Can't remember now.
Either way.
By what I'm looking at here, she's on honorable accord. So
Liar.
makes sense, on honorable accord, she might,
Maybe
sacrifice herself for the Sabbat's ethics.
Which is joining the Camarilla?
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah. Maybe she just got so fed up that when, the Code of Milan got burned, and maybe she was just like,
She just had a really bad 100
I'm a step from a
years.
sale anyways. Fuck it all. But yeah, it's just such a weird environment they're creating now with the books, and I don't understand what they're going for outside of trying to recruit new players. That's to me the magazine-esque layout, the way they're doing the art splashes, the way that they're approaching the material. It seems like they're just focused on the new crowd and not so much the old. I think that Chicago by Night was a love letter to V20 and the old Vampire and trying to bridge that gap, but I think it failed in its goals. I think it's more of a V20 source book, bridge book, as opposed to a V5 book, because it just the decisions they make in that book don't jive with the core V5 book. And I think that they're trying to reforge this path, but they're leaving so much behind and not explaining why. And that's causing all the issues. And on top of that, we have bad mechanics development in the terms of the clans that just got released that I just don't think were thought through. Let's be honest, the ghoul and mortal stuff, it's a good addition, but it's ultimately stuff that we could have figured out on our fucking own. We didn't need an entire new book about it. So I know it's just a little footnote in there. But I don't think they've found, ironically, the identity they want to go with for this 20-plus-year-old IP right now, for the new era.
Actually, it'll be 30.
Yeah, clearly they need to evolve. All game systems to evolve. Clearly they need to do new material, new printings, because you can't just keep on reprinting the old shit verbatim and have it be, and expecting it to sell. But you can modernize it, and they're just making weird decisions.
Yeah, I agree.
But
I agree.
I
You
think
said bad wrong.
I think we've said just about everything we can say without just completely beating the dead horse.
Yeah.
Right now, I just think that Simpsons meme that says "Stop it, he's already dead." As we're doing this, so
Don't worry, I'll give it a review. I'm gonna write up I'm gonna sit down, think, collect my thoughts, and I'll put out a review. But this was fantastic because this is like off the cuff venting.
yeah,
This is
Right.
Yeah.
this is unreasonable venting.
these are the raw takes, right? Of like first initial like visceral responses from the book, because I made sure everybody who was on tonight, we read the book at least once or twice, all the way through for the most part. And really, what sticks out above all else is definitely the clan portion, because that was the big seller point for this thing.
Yep.
And it just
We're bringing you the clans you've been asking for.
man,
Great,
it
why'd you murder them?
fucking face planted like hard. Like this was a
Swing and a miss, boys.
That was a rough swing and a miss. But everybody who came out tonight, thank you so much. This was not a planned topic for this discussion, but we had such strong reactions that it was practically a demand as we were discussing what to do that this would be what we discussed. So you have it, whether you want it or not, much like the companion. It's in your
Regardless
hands
of
now.
whether or not you asked for it.
So next Thursday, this should be up on YouTube, unless we don't want to put it up on YouTube and just leave it to be a unspoken thing that occurred And
No, I think it should be let to live on immortality.
No,
Throw that
I'd say
bitch
let
out
it go
there.
live in perpetuity.
but this is a hot take. Like as in terms of like autopsy on this thing, just a
It's
really
dead, Jim.
a really quick fucking take for me. I'd put it approachable for new fans, not digestible for old fans. I'd say mechanics are subpar for the clan stuff, but relatively solid and robust for the mortals and the revision for the blood potency chart. In terms of setting material, it gets an F from me, a huge failure for maintaining the bar from the previous edition's material for these clans. It was just completely thrown aside, left to die in the street. That's what they did to the setting for me on this. I don't really think it was good. In terms of layout, it's the same layout that we're used to from the magazine-esque from the previous V5 stuff, so that's a solid, like, good average, like B. Not any big improvement, but not anything really a big slump. All in all, I think I'd probably give this like a D grade, for me. Anybody else want to give a shot on those four? Accessibility, setting, mechanics, and layout.
Yeah, accessibility is an A plus because it's free and anyone can get it. I think exactly what you said. If you're new to the setting, V5 is your first time around, yeah, go ahead, pick it up. It's got some errata for you and some rules clarifications and some clans that you've never played before. But if you're familiar with this game, if you are familiar with the setting, and yeah, I think that a lot of people it's going to be a mixed bag. To me, it's a 66% straight across the board. It's just barely passing. People did work. People worked hard. I can see it. However, I think that the big miss is the clans and the disciplines. So
Yeah, I think that tanks the rest of the book.
Accessibility, if you're a new player, you're going to love it. If you're an old player, you're going to fucking hate it. Layout is the same, just like you two said, everything we've seen before. Basically, the way it comes down to, if you're a new player looking at it with fresh eyes and you've never ever played a World of Darkness game before, or you've barely played World of Darkness, it probably gets a 70. I'd give it a solid C. If you're an old player like us four old fucks up here, make like the start of fucking series of unfortunate events and just look away, honey. Just look away.
Jeff?
So I'm gonna give it a hard no. This book was free, and I want my money back.
Oh, god damn. Just like y'all motherfuckers pay me for reading this.
Reason being, really, it kind of did. And the reason being is because this was done by a group of professionals, people in the biz doing their work. I have a friend who is not in the biz and did his own side thing, was a million times better than what was done here by this team of professionals. And that's why I feel it fails. It fails terribly. The only redeeming qualities of it is the ghouls and mortals, and like you said, storytellers will figure that out on their fucking own.
Right.
That's simple.
Yeah.
I failed it.
So
0. I don't give a shit.
Wow, Bardo in book form for Jeff.
I'd say it is Bardo in the form of a book.
To be fair, though, the V20 Storyteller's Companion, I think is what the little thin guy, that's also a pile of dog shit. So,
yeah,
fair
enough. But we got primarily a grade of like a D, barely passing. Jeff bombed the shit out of it. So that's where we sit with the autopsy for the companion.
Yeah. It's a D. It's free. Add it to your PDF collection. It's not going to hurt your feelings.
Or if you're Jeff, demand a refund for money you didn't pay.